pay attention. What makes A players want to work with you? There's actually 4 main components that create a really sexy package for the market out there. The rule of 2, meaning always hire double the people that you need. We always have the credo of slow to hire, fast to fire. Most closers are gonna aim at making 10 to 20K a month. That is what a good closer does. They listen. This is how to hire your first closer or setter. This is how to hire multiple closers or setters. This is all the way up to building a kick-ass sales team that just prints money for you while you're on vacation with your girlfriend, spending time with your family, working on needle movers for your business, or are sick in bed with a lung infection like me 10 days ago. If you have a kick-ass sales team, you can make a ton of money. If you think you right now already have a kick-ass sales team, I ask you just to have kind of like a thought experiment of maybe you don't, because 90% of people that come to us, they have agencies or successful coaching consulting businesses. They claim, hey, my sales team is on point, full of A players, everybody's crushing it. And then when we're done with them and when we do things right with them, and that starts with hiring more people, they actually end up making much more money, and they kind of realize their sales team was not an A player team at all, which is totally fine. Happened to me just like that many, many years ago. And if you're making, for example, 100K right now and you think you're crushing it with your sales team, I challenge you to challenge that yourself, because with a proper sales team, you could probably make 200 to 250K a month at the exact same ad spend, exact same rate of organic posts, and so on and so forth. So a sales team can make or break your business. If you're doing well enough, you could be doing phenomenal. If you're struggling, you could probably doing pretty well if you had a proper sales team. So this is for you also if you're a lone warrior, you have a one-man, one-woman business, you're making 10, 20, 30K a month by yourself, and you're looking to hire your first sales rep, meaning you want to hire your first setter or your first closer. This is going to be very beneficial for you. If you already have a sales team and you need to expand and or replace, this is going to be super duper beneficial for you. Now, one caveat though, this is coming from the perspective of someone that has built multiple sales teams for agency owners, service providers, coaches, and consultants. So if you're outside of these industries, it will probably be still very beneficial for you, but just bear in mind that the specificity is going to be targeted towards coaching businesses, consulting businesses, service providing businesses, and agency businesses. With that being said, I have a bunch of notes here on my screen, and I want to give you a quick overview over the things that we will talk about. So first and foremost, we will touch how most people in businesses actually hire, which never works. So I'm going to be spreading some pretty good truths here on the things you should not do. Then we will talk about when to hire, because the right timing is quite important as well. The hiring procedures as a quick overview: job openings, DM, scorecards, interviews 1, 2, 3. How much a closer / setter should get paid, honesty in your job and in your job opening, scorecard, and interview, what you're looking for, kind of like how you can find out what the red flags are in an application and what the signs of a potential A player are. And we'll talk about work ethics, soft skills that they need to have, and so on and so forth. We're going quite deep on that. Then we'll talk about the market, because it is a market basically when it comes to hiring high-ticket closers. What makes an A player want to work with you? We'll talk about that. We've had great A players work in our company that were quite frankly out of our league, meaning they were much better. They could be working in much crazier, even hotter offers, but they were still working for us. And I'll tell you exactly how we quote unquote made them work for us anyways. We'll talk about the truth about high-ticket closers that come from high-ticket closer mentoring programs. We'll talk about the exact ratio that you should be aiming at from the ratio of candidates to how many people you're actually extending a hiring offer for. And then we'll talk about the hiring procedure in details. You'll be looking at job openings that we're posting, kind of what to write in the DMs with applicants, how to set up a scorecard, and so on and so forth. We'll talk about extending an offer to a good candidate, training and ramp-up phase. That includes internal training as well as how the ramp-up phase should look like. We'll talk about projections, talk about the rule of 2, why you should always hire double the amount of people that you actually need. And then last but not least, we'll talk about how to never run out of candidates. Whew, it's going to be a long one, not going to lie, but I don't want to hold anything back here. This is such a small kind of like brand that I have right now. it's probably going to be seen by like 50 to 200 people. But for those folks of you listening / watching, I want to absolutely over deliver. So that's how it goes. You've probably seen some other stuff on my various channels where I have like crazy 1 hour, 2 hour videos where I'm not holding anything back. And I'll kind of want to do the same here. Anyways, let's crack right into it. How most people in businesses hire, which never works. What they usually do is they interview maybe 3 people for a closer position. Then also what they do is they lie about the position, or they make the position look much sexier than it is because they want to have a really good candidate. And then they have no clue about sales themselves. These are kind of like the 3 cardinal sins in that. Interviewing 3 people is in and of itself a really bad idea because you just have no volume. I mean, maybe you're married right now. Maybe you're on the dating market or something like that. But like if you're meeting 3 people, if you're talking to 3 people, it's very unlikely that one of these 3 people is going to be the love of your life, the mother or father of your future children. So you can see here the math just doesn't add up. And it's very similar to hiring a closer. If you just talk to 3 people, how likely is it going to be that one of them is going to be the perfect closer for you? Very unlikely. So don't just interview 3 people. In fact, and we'll talk more about this later on towards the end, we have a credo of always be hiring. There's a great book. It's literally called How to Hire A Players. A lot of the things I'll be teaching you here are from the book, but adapted into real life, into modern life, and into high ticket closing and setting positions. So you don't necessarily need to read the book. If you want to dive deeper, feel free. I don't get paid or anything to promote the book. Maybe I should. Yeah. You should interview a lot of people, and you should always be hiring, even if you're not looking for to cover a specific position. Also, don't lie about the position and make it look sexier than it is. We see this all the time, and it's so crazy. Sometimes we interview people, and then they're like, hey, love the interview. I just found out about this other offer. What they do is they make a lot of money. They look so good. They sound so great, so I'm going to work with those guys. And then a month or 2 later, these reps then come back to us and like, oh, yeah, turns out that they were lying. They were bloating up their numbers, and they were making it look much better because obviously they want A players to work for them, which everybody wants. But then, once you work there, you see, hey, the lead flow isn't there that they promised me. The structure isn't there. The clients are unhappy, and so on and so forth. So here's the thing. You can absolutely lie and bloat up your numbers and make the position look better than it actually is. But eventually, after like a month, usually people see that, and A players, they're like, this sucks. Like they see behind the facade, I have been lied to, or I've been, exaggerated to. So this is nothing for me. And then they leave. Funny enough, it's actually the B and the C players that then don't leave because they're B or C players. And they're like, yeah, you know what? It's fine. I'm just going to stay here. So it's in and of itself a bad sign if you lie and people start working with you and then they don't leave. So don't do that. It just doesn't work because usually the good ones notice it. And also, you have to have a clue about sales yourself. This is something I see so many times that business owners, they're like, I don't want to handle sales, never handled sales myself. I'm going to hire a closer so I don't have to deal with this kind of attitude. But then the problem is you don't know if they're doing a good job, A. B, you cannot quality control them. C, you're always reliant on somebody. And I know how this is. I really, really know how this feels. It can be very tricky because you're like, I got all these other things to do. I got to create content. I got to be there for my clients. I want to have spare time too. I mean, it's my business after all, right? And sales can be very intimidating. But once you kind of get used to it, it's not as difficult as it is, especially as a business owner. You kind of probably have at least some sort of a gift slumbering within you that will help you with sales. So I strongly recommend you at least having a rudimentary understanding of sales yourself before you hire other people. That's very, very key. Let me just check my text messages here real quick. Okay, interesting. Just got to make sure that everything's okay here. My girlfriend's messaging me about the cat. Okay. She's very sad because we're not going to get the neighbor's cat, she wrote. That's very sad. She does love the neighbor's cat. We have a neighbor that always gives us their cat when they're moving somewhere. Okay. Very a sad day for all of us. No kitty cat. Anyways, great episode here, folks. Let's talk about when to hire. This is usually a question I get from coaches, consultants, agency owners that are around the 30, 40K a month mark, sometimes 10K a month mark. And they're like, Max, I really want to hire a closer. I like the idea of someone else closing for me, or at least a setter. When is the right time? Like, is there some sort of milestone? There actually is. And here's what we always tell our clients. We say, we always hire to fix a constraint. And this is obviously applicable for a sales position, but it is just as applicable for any other position, for an assistant position, delivery assistant as position, videographer position, editor, and so on and so forth. But it's very much so relevant for a closing position or a setter position. Meaning, what does that mean? To fix a constraint. Well, if you have a constraint in your business that keeps you from scaling, meaning getting more clients, that can be fixed by a closer. It looks, for example, something like, I can't even possibly increase my ads budget and get more leads because I don't have enough time to be on the phone with all of these folks. I'm literally already on closing calls with 4 or 5 different people a day. It's about 60 minutes each. So I'm just like on the phone for 4, 5, 6 hours a day. That doesn't even leave me enough time to even work on the needle movers in my business. I have a constraint right now that can only be alleviated, can only be fixed if I hire a closer who takes some or all of my calls. Respectively, with a setter, a similar situation would be, I am struggling because I have so many calls per day and a lot of them are unqualified. So I have like 6 calls per day, but only 3 of them turn out to actually have the money. I could take 3 calls per day myself, but it sucks because 3 of those 6 people that don't even have the money and I'm wasting my time with them. In that case, the constraint can be fixed by a setter, a phone setter that is not an appointment setter. I know that might be confusing. A phone setter that jumps on the call before with each and every lead and kind of qualifies them. So those are the type of constraints that can be fixed by hiring someone. And once you have that constraint, that is where it's time for you to actually hire someone. And the next question that often comes up is, should I hire a setter or a closer, or a closer that kind of also sets himself or herself? That is a little bit hard to answer as a one-size-fits-all answer because it depends on your niche, it depends on your audience, it depends on the sales cycle. If you're in a B2B, a lot of agencies, I know you folks got 2, 3, 4 week sales cycles sometimes if you're closing bigger B2B deals. In that case, it is totally fine to have someone that does setting and closing at the same time because the deal sizes are much bigger. But it could also be that you're just in a regular old B2C market, in which case you might want to have a setter that actually pre-qualifies before the closer. It could also be that you first hire a setter while you still close yourself, and then that setter becomes eventually a closer. It depends heavily on the lead flow though. So unfortunately, I cannot give you a one-size-fits-all answer, but what I'm saying is there is no one-size-fits-all answer, meaning you got to look at the numbers, you got to look at how much lead flow there is, and you also got to look at, depending on the numbers that you're getting in terms of leads, you want to look at what each and every position would be paid based on a certain pay structure. We will talk more about this in a second. Let's get to the next point here. So the hiring procedure for sales reps, meaning phone setters and closers, is the following. It usually contains 4 main parts for us. And you can kind of see here, it's a little bit more detailed than what you might expect, but we always have the credo of slow to hire, fast to fire. And we used to just have a single interview. Yeah, this guy is great. Hired him. But then what happens is when you hire people very fast, you might think you're great and you don't waste a lot of time talking to a lot of candidates. But the problem is you actually then waste a lot of time because most of these candidates are not going to be a good fit. And then you're going to try with them for 2, 3, 4 weeks. You're going to give them a bunch of chances. They underperform. Now you're losing a ton of money in opportunity costs because they're literally throwing away leads for you that you usually pay for. And it just costs you much more. That is why we said, well, let's invest a little bit more time on the front end and be relatively slow to hire those folks, because then we only hire a small, tiny fraction of people that we actually talk to, but then those people are very, very likely to absolutely overperform within our company, and we have much less time invested later on. So we always put it like this. Imagine you hire a 6 out of 10, it will cost you blood, sweat, tears, and time and a lot of frustration to turn that person into a 7 or 8 out of 10. Guaranteed. If you hire someone that is an 8 or 9 out of 10, it will cost you almost nothing to make that person a 10 out of 10. And while that person turns from an 8 into a 10, they'll be already making a ton of money for you and virtually paying for themselves. So do you want to invest very little time in the beginning, but then waste a lot of time later? Or do you want to invest a lot of time in the beginning and then waste almost no time later, right? It's kind of like a long-form gratification versus short-form gratification question. So that being said, our hiring procedure, and we will go into greater detail later, looks like the following. Step 1 is you have a job opening. You post that either in groups, or you run job opening ads, or you're posting this on your social media if you have a following. Step 2 is you're going to have a DM conversation with each and every candidate, where you kind of get to know them a little bit better. Then you send them a scorecard. A scorecard is basically a document with a screen share Loom video that basically explains the entirety of the position, the workload, the on-track earnings, the expected ramp-up phase. Gives them all the details about the position. And then only then, if they still are a good fit and they like what you have to offer with the position, only then you go on to the 4th step, which is 3 interviews. You're going to have 3 interviews with each and every candidate. We will circle back to this in greater detail in about 20-30 minutes-ish, where I'll be breaking down the hiring procedure in a greater detail. But for now, I just want you to be aware this is what the rough procedure looks like. Now, the question is, how much should a closer/setter get paid? This is a question I get quite a lot, especially when you're coming in the beginning and it's your first hire. Generally speaking, a closer, rule of thumb, but there's exceptions, a closer should be getting around 10% of the cash that they're collecting as a commission. Usually there's no base salary with a closer. However, with setters, people that pre-qualify, we give them a base salary. Plus, if they're doing a lot of outbound calls, meaning you're someone that does a lot of opt-ins where people just drop their phone number and you got a bunch of phone numbers and emails, but those people are not booking a call, and then you have a setter who outbound calls them, then they also get commission for that. So it's base plus commission for setters and commission only for closers. Now, what we have is we have a calculation sheet that we usually give to our clients that we work with. All the clients that we work with that are at that level where they need to hire, they all work kind of one-on-one with me and with my team at the same time. We give them a little calculation sheet. I'm not going to go through the calculation sheet right now. You can build this basically yourself, and I'm just going to tell you what this looks like. So you basically want to just create an Excel sheet or a Google spreadsheet, and on there you want to have, if you know the basics about how to use a Google sheet, you should be able to build this yourself. You basically want one column with the cash collected per month in different milestones. So it's like 20,000 cash collected per month, 30,000, 50,000, 75,000, 100,000. You can decide whatever increments that is. So in this column, you have the cash collected. And then what you would have is you would assume, okay, if I would have a closer, that closer would get paid 10% commission for the cash collected that they're bringing in. Then at the 30,000 cash collected a month rate, they would then obviously get paid 3,000 a month. At the 50,000 cash collected, they would get paid 5,000, and so on and so forth. So you literally just have in the second column, you basically create a formula that says, hey, take the number from the column of the cash collected, multiply it by 1%, multiply by, 10%, so by 0.1, and then that is the commission if I paid that person 10%. Now, what I usually do with these increments is I usually start at roughly where you are right now in terms of cash collected. So if you're a company that currently collects 50K a month, I would have 50K as the first increment, and 60K, 70K, and so on and so forth. The reason why this is important, because you can see, okay, if I choose to pay my closer 10%, this is what they would get paid at the current rate of the company. But assuming we are scaling, which I guess that's your goal, at 60K, they would get paid this much. At 70K, they would get paid that much, and so on and so forth. This is key for you, not only to communicate it honestly and properly to each and every rep later on with the scorecard, but it's also key for you to kind of see, okay, this is how much in commission I will pay at each and every stage of cash collection in the business. And what you then do is you mess around with you so to speak, you play around with different kind of payment modalities. So one option would be 10%. The other one would be, let's have a look at what would happen if we paid them a little bit above industry standard. So instead of 10% commission, we would pay our closer 12% commission. How much would they get paid there at each and every increment? So you basically just take another column and you say, hey, multiply the cash collected column times 0.12. So that would respectively show 12% of commission. And it's, again, always key for you to really see what that really comes out to, how much commission you would pay these people and how much they would take home. Then most importantly, you do the same for a setter role. A setter role is a little bit more key because there you don't have just one variable of the commission percentage, but usually two, which is a base pay, a base salary plus a commission pay. And that is something it's difficult to calculate that in your head, but if you have it in a paper, on paper, so to speak, on a screen, it'll be easier for you to see. So the options are, for example, okay, let's pay them less base, for example, $1,000 a month, but then they get 8% in commission for each and every set that gets closed that they set for us. Now you have that as a model A, and you can then see exactly how much per month would come out for each and every setter individually at each amount of cash collected. However, I also kind of want to see if I pay them more base pay and lower commission. So for example, let's pay them $2,000 in higher base pay and then lower commission for whatever, they only get 5% commission or 4% commission. How would that look like at each and every increment? And you basically do this with each and every model that you come up with. And then you want to choose which of these models is the best. The two criteria for that is, number one, you probably don't want to overpay someone. I've seen this a lot, especially with beginners. They have reps that they really like. They have like a crush on a rep, so to speak. Like, I really want that rep to work with me. They demand 17%. And 17% doesn't sound so much, but when you see it on paper, hey, at 100K cash collected, I'm paying this person $17,000 each and every month. Is that really worth it for me? And then the other indicator, the other important aspect that you want to look at is like, is this person going to get paid enough with each and every model? Because maybe you're coming in and you're saying, yeah, 10% commission is industry standard. Let's do that. We have about a $30,000 cash collection rate per month. Let me look at it. Oh, at 10% commission, they would only get $3,000 a month. That's not really the sexiest type of pay for a good closer. Most closers are going to aim at making 10 to 20K a month. So with these, basically what I'm saying is with filling these sheets out or building a sheet like that for yourself, you can kind of see black on white what a certain rep would get with each paying model. And then you want to choose one that pays people enough to be an incentive to work for you, whether they're a setter or a closer. But at the same time, you also don't want to overpay where, maybe someone just charges you a lot of commission and when in reality, it's just not worth it. There are a lot of factors to that. If you're now listening or watching this thinking, okay, how do I know how much is overpay and how much isn't? Again, industry standard is roughly 10% per closer. Nobody will complain about that, but it also depends where your leads are coming from. Because if your leads are coming in purely cold and you have a huge sales cycle and your closers need to do a lot of follow-up, they need to build relationships with each and every lead, and they really need to nurture them and follow up with them and then close. That's definitely much more difficult than, hey, I got a huge brand with 300,000 YouTube followers. They've all been following me for years, and they're all going to come in inbound. They're super warm, and my we always call him sunshine weather closer. My sunshine weather closer just got to take orders like at the drive-in at McDonald's, and he wants to have 17%. I would say probably not, mister, because you don't have to work very hard. These leads practically already close themselves. So 17% is overpaying. Whereas if I said, hey, these leads are super duper cold and you got to really, really work your ass off, 17% is still a very steep example, but 12 or 13% is definitely fair because these leads are very cold and you have to work quite a lot on them. So that is kind of like the context. That is the context that you need to be aware of. Anywho, if you're still watching or listening and you're like, okay, I'm still excited about this, then I appreciate you because we've gone pretty deep already. Anyways, let's get to the next point. So this covers how much a closer or a setter should get paid. Honesty in your job opening, scorecard, and interview is super duper key, especially with these numbers. So now it's important when you are coming up with these numbers that you communicate this properly. So when you know, hey, we have a $30,000 or $50,000 cash collected rate, I'm going to pay my setter 1.5K base plus 5%. That equals to whatever, so and so much money each and every month. And then a setter comes and applies for you and you ask them, how much would you like to get paid? And they're like, well, I would like to get paid $8,000 a month. That would be realistic. And you know your numbers don't add up to that. In fact, you know from your sheet that you would need to make whatever, 75,000 cash collected per rep in order for that rep at the current pay rate to get paid 8,000. I'm just butchering these numbers. I don't have a calculator on me. Then you can't just be like, all right, that's reasonable. No, you got to be like, hey, these are the numbers, okay? This is what we're making right now. So when you start it with us and you apply the minimum closing rate or the minimum set rate and you stick to your numbers, this is what you can expect. So again, like you want to be honest here, and you cannot be honest unless you know your numbers, and that's why you should fill out or create a sheet for that yourself. Whew, all right. What you're looking for. A lot of people ask me that. They're like, how do I know if a closer or a setter is good? And there's actually 4 things that we're really looking for. 4 things. Number 1 is experience. We used to say, don't ever hire experienced closers. Instead, just hire someone that has potential. Experience over potential, though, out of my experience. Here's why. A lot of Formula One teams, to give you a cool metaphor, they have sometimes a rookie that has a lot of potential. Every Formula One team has 2 drivers, okay? One of these drivers is often a rookie that has a lot of potential. Why? Because if you hire a rookie, you don't have to pay them as much because they haven't done anything yet, but you're kind of hiring them and then you're building them up to become a future world champion, and then they're super duper grateful for you because you're the team who made them into a world champion and you gave them all these chances and so on and so forth. But the other of the 2 drivers is usually someone very experienced, because the experienced person has seen the down phases, has been through a lot of shit. They know how to handle themselves. They know how to handle their emotions. They know how to work under pressure. Plus, they just freaking deliver. And that is what you need, especially with a first closer. And that is what you need always, at least half of your closing team to be experienced. You can hire people on potential, but like I said, at least half of the people in your team should have a lot of experience. This is very, very key. They're going to cost more probably. They're going to have higher demands, but that's fine. I prefer someone with higher demands because that pushes me and the marketing team, the advertising team, and everybody, but then they also deliver much more than a rookie. Someone that has potential doesn't always perform to the amount where you wish they would or where you thought they would. So this is very, very key. Now, when it comes to experience, another key point here is that experience doesn't extrapolate as well from other industries. This is very, very important. A lot of times you might get people that are, in the 40s or 50s, and they're like, oh, I have 25 years of experience in selling insurance. I have 20 years of experience in selling real estate. And now I want to sell your high-ticket mentoring or your high-ticket agency offer. It sounds super good on paper. Holy shit, here's a guy that has been selling for 25 years. but it doesn't work that way. Selling real estate, selling insurance, selling cars is not at all selling high-ticket online programs. It's so different. The price points are different. The modality are different. The audience is different that you're selling to. The way they find out about you is very different. If someone shows up physically to buy a car, they're much, much higher bought in as opposed to someone that just got called by your outbound setter team and just got scheduled for a closing call, and they're just taking your call at lunch break over Zoom on the phone. That's just one out of many examples. So you cannot imagine someone crushing it with high tickets, selling mentoring online or selling an agency offer just because they sold freaking houses before. Usually look for someone that has sold something similar in price point, also online, and most importantly, if you can, look for someone that has been roughly in the same industry and has been crushing it. This is so key. Please do not fall for someone that has been in a completely different industry. It's completely hit or miss if they're going to crush it with you. That is the first thing. So you want to look for experience. Second thing you want to look for is actually work ethic. This sounds super obvious, work ethic, but specifically work ethic when it comes to volume. Volume. I'm assuming you're a company or a one-man show that has a lot of leads. If you don't, you probably don't have a constraint, aka you probably don't want to hire a closer or a setter. But I'm assuming you have a lot of leads, meaning you want someone that is totally fine with just sitting in front of the computer or on the phone in front of the auto dialer for 8 hours plus a day. This is so key. You don't want to have a closer that gets burnt out when they have more than 3 calls a day, all right? And this is key here. You need to ask them if they've done this in their previous offers. So many closers are going to apply for you and they're like, yeah, my previous offer, I closed 500K. This all sounds great, but then also there's like, how many calls did you have on average a day? Maybe they had 1 call on average per day and it was like a big price point. That does not prove to you that they can be on the phone or on Zoom for 8 hours a day for 5, 6, 7 calls. So they need to have the volume. This is so important when it comes to setters, outbound setters that hit up outbound people that opted in with phone numbers. Our outbound phone setters, they have to hit at least, I think our current KPI is 230 dials per day, depending on how many of these people pick up. That is literally, you're going to sit here with your headset or your AirPods 8 hours a day while the auto dialer dials. That's all you're going to do. Now, here's the thing. You might be listening to this as a business owner and you're like, oh my God, I would never do that. That sounds like hell on earth to me. Maybe your personality type is like that. But for some people, believe it or not, this sounds like heaven. They're like, oh my God, I get to do the same thing over and over again every single day. I just hyper focus on this one thing. Sign me up. Best thing ever. So trust me, just because you don't like it, there are people out there that absolutely love it. And you need to find these people that are absolutely cool with hitting a lot of volume and that have the work ethic. We'll talk about in a second how exactly you can find out whether or not they have that, because a lot of people are going to lie to you and they say they have it, but they actually don't. We'll get to this in a second. Point 3 that you're actually looking for, and this is key now. Now we're actually looking for soft skills. You might be asking yourself like, okay, experience and work ethic. What about closing or setting? Like, don't they actually have to be good at that? Yeah, that's one of the criteria, one of the 4 criteria, and that we put this under the soft skill umbrella, meaning they need to have actual closing skills or actual setting skills. They need to have social understanding, social calibration, and charisma. These are kind of like the 3 sub points of that 3rd point, so to speak. Actual closing or setting skills, that's why we have 3 interviews. We will talk more about this later on, but they need to be good at actually objection handling people. They need to be good at freaking listening to what people have to say, right? Social understanding, and they should be charismatic. They shouldn't talk like this and be boring as hell. They have to be freaking charismatic. Guess what? Does everyone in my staff have to be charismatic? No. I got numbers people that are not charismatic at all. My videographer can barely string 2 sentences together. Doesn't matter because they're just editing videos. But every single sales rep If they cannot talk, if they're not funny or interesting or at least engaging when they talk to me in an interview, I cannot hire them, and neither should you. So they have to have base level charisma. They have to have base level closing or setting understanding, and they need to have a social acuity to listening to what people have to say. I'm going to give you a quick example what I mean by that. In every single mock call that I do in an interview, we'll talk more about this in detail later, but I do a role play in an interview where I want the rep, the candidate that wants to become a closer, to close me. And I always give him the same objection. I give him multiple objections, but one of them is the following. I say to them, hey, whatever price point, $4,800 all together, all up front, is quite a lot of money. Okay? I'm saying this, 4,800 all together, all up front, is quite a lot of money. What I want to do with this is I want to see if the closer candidate can listen to me and listen to me saying all together, all up front. Guess what 90% of candidates do? They're like, oh yeah, well, you got to risk things. Have you heard of Elon Musk? Elon Musk invests money. Like, they're not freaking listening. They just try to handle some rudimentary objection. But what I'm saying is 4.8K all together, all up front, is quite a lot of money. So a good closer would hear that and say, okay, you said all together, all up front. So is it an issue of being not able to afford it at all? Or is it an issue of having to pay it all together, all up front? Perhaps a payment plan would help you. That is what a good closer does. They listen, all right? I hope that makes sense. Just wanted to give you a little bit more of a practical example because we've talked quite a lot of meta here lately. Whew. Okay, that is in terms of soft skills. But there's a fourth thing that you're looking for when you want to hire, when you want to find the diamonds in the rough or the A players in the haystack of bullshitters, B and C players. And that fourth skill is actually the ability to take feedback and implement it. Hear me out because it sounds super obvious. Well, guess what? When sales staff comes to our team, we train them really hard. And it doesn't matter if they're already an 8 or a 9 out of 10, we turn them into a 10 out of 10. For our sales staff, we have daily training, daily meetings. We have kick-ass sales training beyond the daily training. We have daily quality control. We have all this. So we're going to give them a lot of feedback down to the most tiniest freaking detail of, hey, your intonation at this sentence at the end of it wasn't super on point. Fix it, right? So we're going to give a lot of feedback. So if the rep doesn't possess the ability to take that feedback and freaking implement it, it means we waste a lot of time and energy for no reason. Because if they can't fix it, we're just throwing our time and energy out the window into a black hole, so to speak. And you might be listening to this and saying, well, this is super logical. Like, of course they're going to implement it. Well, guess what? No, they won't. It's crazy. Maybe you can even maybe you're even nodding right now. Like, oh my God, Max, it's so true. Like, 90% of reps, you would give them feedback and say, hey, when you're talking to someone, don't do this thing anymore. Like, you keep sounding super scripted. Don't sound scripted anymore. And then they would literally fair and square look you in the eye and they're like, oh yeah, makes sense. Yeah, thanks for that feedback. Okay, don't sound scripted anymore. And then literally they would go have the next call and they sound super duper scripted again. And you're like, hey, I just told you don't sound scripted. And they're like, oh yeah, I forgot. Oh, I was so nervous. That is the opposite of the ability to take and implement feedback. So you need to be aware of this. These are the 4 things you're looking for: experience over potential, work ethic to hit volume, soft skills, which includes closing or setting skills, social understanding, and charisma, and the ability to take feedback and implement it. Our 3 interview structure that I'll be going into detail in a couple of minutes is going to screen for exactly these 4 things. So when you stick to what you're about to learn here, you will find out very, very well if someone has all these 4 necessary requirements or not, all right? Last but not least, when you say, okay, these 4 things are important, I get it, so I'm just going to ask them, right? Like, if you're in an interview, like, hey, can you take feedback and implement it? If you're going to ask them, they're all going to say yes, right? They're not stupid. I've had this once, someone was also interviewing and they were wondering why they would always interview like why they would always hire shit candidates. And then I would listen to an interview and here's how they would do the interview. Hey, in our company, it's very important that you're experienced. are you experienced? And then the other person is like, yeah, I'm experienced. So it's like, don't tell them that it's important and then ask them, because obviously it's not going to work. What you want to do instead is you're looking for proof of such things, not the rep telling you they have such things. So for example, the work ethic to hit volume aspect, right? That's point 2, if you remember. Have they ever been in a job where they had to dial 8 hours a day and hit at least 200 dials? Have they ever been in a closing position where they had 5-6 closing calls per day? Because guess what? If they haven't, it's very unlikely that they will be able to do that. Now, I get it. Sometimes reps come to you and they're like, we've just never had the lead flow. I would have totally loved to do that. Then you got to ask for any sort of other experience that they've had in their life that might not be related to sales per se, where they had to do something very grindy, right? A good example for that is, someone that worked in a factory and, they like a Ford motor factory where they always just had to put the one screw on the one lid like 10,000 times per day. That would be another example of, okay, that person has the work ethic to hit the volume, right? So this is always key. Look for proof of, have they done such things in the past? Don't just believe their words, because everybody wants to get hired. Everybody wants to get the position. So they're inclined to lie to you. I'm not saying they're liars and you shouldn't trust anyone. I'm just saying they have an incentive to just tell you the right things because they want something from you, aka the position. So you want to look for proof, right? The next point that I want to talk about here is the market mindset. And this is kind of key. This is kind of like the connection between what you're looking for and what are A players looking for, what makes those A players want to work with you. What you have to understand is the dynamic of high ticket closers and setters and you, the potential hiring, is like a market per se. It's almost like the dating market. What is the dating market? In the dating market, you probably have the most attractive people out there, right? The supermodels, the muscular guys that are millionaires that are driving around Lamborghinis or whatnot. Those are probably at the top of the market. They're in highest demand. And then, who's in the lowest demand? I don't know, like someone very unattractive with maybe like 4 kids from 4 different partners, has no job, like that's very unattractive, right? So if you were living in a trailer park with 4 different kids from 4 different partners, you're massively overweight and your skin is ugly because you smoke so much cigarettes, you're unlikely to score the supermodel that has a million Instagram followers, right? This is just a random example. I hope this kind of makes sense for you. So what you need to understand is your offer, your company needs to be as attractive as possible to also then, quote unquote, deserve the best A players to work in your company. And I know this kind of sucks if you're getting started. You're like, well, I want to scale and I need someone really good to be able to scale, but I'm not there yet. So how do I get someone really good? If I have scaled already to 100K, I wouldn't need someone really good. So it's like the hungry don't get fed, so to speak. And we'll talk more about this in a second now, on what makes A players want to work with you beyond just the money. But what you have to understand is your offer in and of itself, the package that you offer needs to be as attractive as possible. So just like imagine you're someone that is out of shape and you want to date supermodels. Well, a good thing for you to do is maybe start going to the gym so at least your body looks a little bit better. Maybe start working on yourself, become an interesting person, become a more charismatic person, and so on and so forth, because that will increase your chances on the market. Same for you when you want to hire closers or setters for your agency, coaching, consulting offer. Now that brings me to the next point. Now pay attention. What makes A players want to work with you? There's actually 4 main components that create a really sexy package for the market out there. That is number 1, the money opportunity. Pretty straightforward. How much money can someone expect to make as a setter or a high ticket closer in your company? Number 2, culture and team. Number 3, opportunities to get better, including training. And number 4 is the promise of a bright future of the company. Let me go into greater detail here. Money opportunity is fairly self-explanatory. If you're someone who has price point of 10K per client, and on average, your closer can expect to have around 3 people on their calendar that are all worth 10K, and they can expect around a 30% closing rate, that means that closer would generate 10K per day. which is then 50K per week, Monday through Friday, which then is per month, 200K, if my math is not off now, which then means they would get about a 20K commission if their commission percentage would be at 10%. That's pretty attractive, much more attractive than if you had a price point at 3K a month, sorry, not a month, at 3K per client, and you could only give them 2 calls per day. So obviously, closers are going to be motivated by money, so will setters. By the way, a lot of setters are in the setting position because they eventually want to become closers, and that's totally fine. You cannot judge your closers or your setters by the fact that they want to make a lot of money. In fact, I welcome it when people say, hey, I want to make a ton of money, okay? One of my main motivators is to just make money, all right? I would say if that is their only motivator, it might not be ideal, but if that is their main motivator, like 75% of why they're doing closing is because they want to make a lot of money, that's good. You want your sales staff to be money driven. Maybe my videographer shouldn't be that money driven. I want this guy to just make beautiful videos and nice cuts, but my closers and setters, absolutely, please do be money driven. However, and here's where it gets really interesting, do not underestimate the other points, starting with culture and team. We've literally gotten closers from other offers that make more money than us, lo and behold, but they still want to work with us because we had a kick-ass culture and team. We have daily meetings, and I'm not saying this to toot my own horn or anything like that. I'm just giving you an example. Like, put yourself in the shoes of a young closer, maybe 25, 30 years old, maybe 35, and they're crushing it. They're great at the top of their game. And in their previous job, they were just, sitting in front of their laptop all day. Yeah, they're making their money, but there was no team, there was no culture, there was no meetings daily on Zoom, there was no support, there was no pushing, there was no learning opportunity. So culture and team is oftentimes very important for a closer. I don't know exactly why that is, but I'm assuming because a closing or sales position is a highly social position, meaning it attracts predominantly social people, not really these like lone warrior kind of types. And therefore, they want to be in a group of other closers, kind of like a football team, so to speak, like a chat football team, like the locker room football team, kind of like that. They want to have that dynamic. They seek that dynamic. Same goes for opportunities to get better. Most good closers, even if they're already 8 or 9 out of 10, they want to hone their craft. They want to sharpen their sword, regardless of how much money and experience they already have. They would always prefer a company where they have awesome learning, awesome training, awesome access to mentors that could teach them how to get even better at their already existing great sales skill. So this is another very, very attractive thing you can have. And last but not least, the promise of a bright future of the company. You have to realize sales staff, they sign up, maybe 50% they sign up for where the company is right now. And, all the positive aspects that entail that, the money that they're making if they join right now and so on and so forth. But the other 50% is, where will this company be in 2 years? If I work my ass off, if I do my job well, if I close well, where will this company be in 2 years? Will I be one of the core staff members that joined them 2 years ago and is now crushing it together with them, has turned into an absolute monster beast of a closer? I'm getting even more money, and because I'm a senior member, I'm getting all the benefits, or at the very least, I'm getting the knowledge that I was always here from the beginning, kind of like one of the original Facebook 4. Like, is that going to happen with the company? Are they hungry? Is the CEO smart? Or is the CEO lazy, just wants to make his freaking 100K a month and be cool and flex on Instagram? Or is the CEO freaking driven and wants to scale this thing to the moon and take me with them on an epic ride around the moon? Because that sounds always much more attractive to an A player. I'll take a quick sip of water here. And this is key because these are things that specifically A players will look for. If someone says, you know what, culture and team, not so important for me. Opportunities to get better, not so important for me. I'm already good. That's not what an A player would say, right? So it's almost like a two-way street here. You want to be able to offer these things to A players, but also if people are not impressed by all those things, they're probably not an A player either. right? So by you offering all these things, you're automatically already filtering the non-A players out, and you're attracting the A players into your company. Because guess what? This is another great thing. I didn't write this down, just a random thing. Good people know good people. Meaning, we actually get our most A player people in general, not just sales staff, from our current A players already. Usually, if someone is overperforming as a setter or a closer within your company, they usually know someone else that is on roughly the same level as them. So that's always key. So if you say, hey, I got 1 or 2 A players already in my company, how do I get more? Start with those folks and ask them if they know someone. Now, granted, when you interview these people, interview them like anybody else and don't give them special privileges like, oh, because you are referred from our A player, you're probably great. No. I've had this too where I got referred from our A player and then that person wasn't a good fit at all. It can still happen, but I'm just saying it's more likely that an A player knows another A player. Just so you know. On a side note, little side tangent here. Now here's the crazy thing. So we've talked about these 4 things: money, opportunity, culture and team, opportunities to get better, and the promise of a bright future of the company. These are the 4 main core aspects that attracts A player. Guess what? And this is the key here for the beginner folks here. If you're listening to this and you're like, well, you know, I'm only making 30K cash collected, 50K cash collected, I'm not sure if I can attract an A player. Guess what? If you don't have the money opportunity yet, you can still hire A players as long as the other 3 points are really, really good. Meaning, hey, Mr. A player, when you come into our company, you can see our numbers here. Here's a scorecard. Here's my calculations of what you would be making. You would probably just start with making 5K a month. I know this isn't that much, but look at the awesome culture and team that we're having. We have daily meetings. We're all connected. We got like wins. We got meetups in person, yada, yada, yada. Look at the awesome opportunities to get better. We got great sales mentors that we work with. We got our internal training. We have access to this sales guy. Our sales manager has been in the company for 10 years. He's going to teach you how to close. He's a top G. This guy made 10 million over the last 2 years, whatever. And also look at the promise of the bright future of the company. This is our CMO. We're running ads. I'm young. I don't have family. I'm just going to grind. I'm grinding for 18 hours a day. I don't care about anything else. I'm not looking to flex on Instagram with a little bit of money. I want to scale this thing to the moon. I'm super motivated. Like if an A player sees that, they're like, okay, 5K a month isn't the best, but all these other things sound so awesome. And I really trust in this team to really be scaling it up. And I love their training and so on and so forth. Fuck it. I'll do it anyways. I'm going to start because I'm in it for the long run. So if you don't have the money opportunity yet, make sure that at least the 3 other points are really, really on point. What we do with our clients, for example, some of our smaller clients that are only making 30K a month, quote unquote only, for them, it's pretty cool. But the thing is, they're like, okay, I cannot hire a closer because they would quote unquote only make 3K a month. Maybe I can pay them some base salary. The fact that we train the sales teams of our clients really helps our clients hire A players, because they're like, okay, if you work with us, you actually also work with Max Tornow's team. They have all these sales support live calls. You get quality control. You get not daily, but weekly feedback on your closing calls or your setter calls, so you can actually become even better. Again, like it sounds kind of arrogant. I'm not here to toot my own horn, but the mere fact that our clients can kind of like name drop us, that sounds very sexy to a lot of reps, and that's how they can still get relatively good A players, or at least diamonds in the rough, people that have potential to be an A player, to still join the company, even though they don't have the money opportunity just there yet, because they have the training with us included. I hope that kind of makes sense. Kind of like a convoluted example, but you get it. Whew. All right. How long has this been going? Have I been talking to about an hour already? I think so. Yeah. Hey, if you're still watching and listening and you enjoy this, drop a like, drop a comment. I really appreciate it. What we're doing here is I want to give out all the knowledge as much as possible in as detail as possible. I'm not trying to hold anything back. I don't know, because I don't want to be the guy who's known to give you a little bit of information. I want to be the guy who's like, oh my God, this Max Tornow guy, he's really helping me. So if you're still watching / listening, I don't know if you're doing this on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere, give us a 5-star rating. That really helps. Maybe drop a comment on YouTube like, hey, Max, I learned this lesson so far. This is great. Keep going. Or any requests that you have, let us know. It always very, very much is appreciated, and it's helpful for us. And it helps me get more awesome guests on the podcast as well, because this is kind of like a solo episode. Anywho, next point I have on my list here is high ticket closers that come from these high ticket closer mentoring programs. Honestly, 90% of them are shit. I'm sorry, but this is really something that I've noticed over the last couple of years. 5, 6, 7 years ago, someone that has been through a high ticket closer academy was usually someone where you could say they have experience, they have had training, they know how to do objection handling. It's great. I like him. I can hire them. But over the last couple of years, there's been so many high ticket, like become a high ticket closer mentoring programs that just sprung out of the soil like mushrooms. There's been so many of those that those people who offered these mentoring programs, they now had to outcompete each other with wilder and wilder promises. And because they had to promise wilder things, the people that got into their mentoring programs were lazier and less hardworking than ever before. Here's why. When you were one of the first people that had become a high ticket closer offer many years ago, you would have probably promoted it in a way as like, hey, you want to work in sales, you want to learn this high value skill and close people and get great at persuasion and make good money. The kind of people that you would attract with this would definitely be more bought into the idea of working in sales and working hard to make a lot of money. However, if you look at high ticket closer mentoring programs right now, because they're in so much competition with each other, they just have to be like, hey, there's a super easy way where you can make easily 10 to 20K a month. All you have to do is just be on the phone with super warm inbound leads, people that already want to buy from you. You just have to handle 2-3 objections, and then you sell for $3,000, and then you get 10% commission from that. Like this, you can make so much money each and every day. Now, because they have these wild claims, because of course they want the clients, they want you to give them your money, so you buy their high ticket closer mentoring program. So of course they're going to promise you it's easy and it's super cool and it's so easy and you're going to make 20K a month doing nothing. Now the people that get attracted by that, they come into the program imagining it, okay, when I'm a closer, I'm just going to sit here, I'm going to take 3 calls, so it's going to be super warm, I don't have to do much. And now they get thrown into the reality of what it means to be a closer, of like, I have to deal with stupid excuses, I have to objection handle all the time. Some of these people are not bought in at all. Some of these people are not going to show up. I have to chase people. I have to follow up with people. I have to create a pipeline. I have to nurture them. This sucks. I was promised to make 20K a month super easily with warm inbound leads. This sucks. Now, here's where this becomes relevant for you, the business owner, because you just want an honest, hard-working closer that doesn't burn your leads and that does proper follow-up and conversion and proper objection handling. But now you're getting one of these fellas in that expects to make 20K a month super easily. Of course, they're not going to work hard. They're going to suck, and then they're going to quit, and you fell for them because guess what else they're learning in the Become High Ticket Closer mentoring program? They learn how to sell themselves well enough in an interview so they get hired. So you just want an honest, hardworking person to not suck and to make your company money, but you fall for someone that is really good in an interview, and now they underperform. So that's why I think high ticket closers from high ticket mentoring programs, I'm always like, why did you want to become a high ticket closer? Oh, because you want to make 20K a month on remote? Okay. How many positions have you worked in so far? 0. Just count 1 and 1 together. It's just not going to work. That's why that's also why we always say higher experience over potential, because only someone who's done it before usually actually is able to do it with you as well. That's my opinion on high ticket closers from high ticket closer mentoring programs. Slow to hire, quick to fire. We've talked about this before. That's why you want to have a very extensive hiring procedure. We'll talk more about this in a second. We'll talk about the hiring procedure. But before that, a lot of people ask, okay, Max, how many people should I hire? Like, what's the ratio between the people that I talk to, that apply, that I interview, versus the people that we hire? Well, guess what? It's about 0.5 to 1%. Let me repeat this. You want to hire about 0.5 to 1% of people that you talk to. This is very, very key here. Not 33%. Like, I talked to 3 people, I'm going to hire the best of these 3. Talk about 0.5 to 1%. This sucks. I get it. But you know what else sucks? Hiring the wrong person, having them underperform for 3, 4, 5 weeks till you finally have the balls to fire them. And when you do fire them, you're back at ground zero. You don't want that, right? So you got to have to hire 0.5 to 1% of people that you talk to. That does not mean 0.5 to 1% of the people that you interview. It's about 0.5 to 1% of people that you talk to in the DMs. Remember, the hiring procedure includes the DMs. That is very, very key. It's a lot, but at the same time, we've talked about this before. You want to invest a lot of time in the beginning so you don't have to invest a lot of time later on. What does the hiring procedure look like? So if you remember, we've had 4 stages: job opening, DMs with the applicants, scorecard, and then 3 interviews. This is very key. Let's look at the job opening. Job openings, you can run in several different ways. Number 1 is you run ads. Fairly straightforward. You run ads on LinkedIn with Recruitee, or you're running ads literally on Facebook where you say, hey, we're looking for this. This is the opportunity, and so on and so forth. What I actually like, especially in the beginning when you may not have ads budget yet, is you hire straight from your own list, meaning if you have a social media following, you can make a job posting on Instagram. Hey, we're looking for high ticket closers. This is what's included. This is what we expect from you. This is what you need to do in order to apply. Or the other one is Facebook groups. We've actually sourced some pretty decent people out of Facebook groups, believe it or not. The way it works either way is you create a job opening post. Depending on the platform, it might be a shorter or a longer post. But what usually has to be included in that post, and to our clients, we give them templates. They just have to insert their numbers. But I'm going to explain to you roughly what a job opening post includes. It includes what you're looking for, what position that you're looking for, whether it's a setter or a closer, what that position roughly pays, right? What that pays based on, whether it's commission or base or commission plus base, where the leads are coming from, what they are expected to do with those leads, outbound calling them or just taking them on Zoom or just on the phone call, and then any other things that make you stand out. Now, remember what we've talked about in the what makes an A player want to work with you, include things like that. So our job openings are actually pretty awesome. They looked something like this. Hey, we're looking for a high ticket closer. Our current closers are making, I can't remember what it was by the time we were hiring, like making 10 to 15K a month, commission only. Our leads come to us relatively warmed up. Again, we want to be honest here, relatively warmed up here. We have a VSL that made us the first million within 7 months. We have a huge social media accounts, Instagram number 1, Instagram number 2. We've been in the industry for 5 years. We have thousands of testimonials all across social media and the internet. We've been in the industry for a very long time. We know what to do, and we actually deliver really well to our clients. Here's a bunch of reviews for us. So again, here I'm trying to stand out because some job openings are like closer position, pays 10K a month, apply here. But we're like, this is what the closer position pays. Here's what we actually deliver to our clients. Here's the kind of leads that are coming to you. Here's what you expect with the leads. And here's some other awesome stuff that makes us stand out. The fact that we've been in the industry for very long. Because again, like, you just have to think about the market. The market is full of shit offers of people that have been in the industry for 6 months, and there's zero proof that they will still be around in 6 more months. But if you say, in our case, hey, we've been in the industry since 2019, we're not going to go anywhere. So if you're looking for something stable where you don't have to freaking quit or get kicked out after 6 months, probably if you want to work with us, it's going to be a good chance that you'll be fine. Right? So that's another very important thing. And then last but not least, in that job opening, you want to include what you don't want to have. So we have literally, like, if you're interested, comment down below if it's a Facebook group, or send me a DM with, closer, and I'll send you more details. Do not apply if you're new at closing. We just don't hire closers that are new right now. Do not apply if you're an agency who just wants to staff people in. Not interested in that, because the agencies, they often reach out to you. They're everywhere, and then they're like, we have closers, just pay us this much money. And guess what? Their closers also suck, very similar to the high ticket mentoring program people. And then also, last but not least, do not apply if you have a thick accent or whatever your no-go criteria are. For us, we cannot deal with thick accents because a lot of our clients are European. And they themselves have trouble understanding if someone has a thick accent. Plus, there are certain accents from certain countries that just don't convert as well. I'm not saying certain countries are worse than others. I'm just saying people have an opinion about certain accents. For example, a German accent is always connotated with, oh, the guy's German. They're probably super hardworking and super accurate, right? Like Germans have that reputation. But when someone has a thick Indian accent, and I'm saying this with a lot of love, I got a lot of friends from India, that is usually connotated with like, oh, call center in India, they're probably going to scam me. It's not me, but that's what people think. So that's why we don't want to hire certain people with accent. So, and also we don't hire people that are too young. We just don't hire people that are too young. So we have some of these no-go criteria in the job opening already. Now we still filter in the next stage in the DMs as well. But this is the job opening. You post it on your social media, or you run an ad, or you post it in groups, and then people will come to you. The next stage is you actually have a quick DM conversation with the reps. Now, in the beginning, you can do this yourself as a business owner. I recommend you do this just so you get a little bit of a feeling for what people write, and maybe you want to adjust your job opening a little bit because you're getting the wrong type of people in, or you're getting the right type of people in. Depends on that. Later on, you can actually delegate this to a VA. We have it delegated to a VA now. Our VA has a specific list of like, screen for these things. If they have any of these things, for example, too thick of an accent, tell them they're not good. Tell them we're not looking for that. Tell them we're not interested. If they have these 3 things, then you can suggest to send them a scorecard and then an interview. So over time, you can come up with the exact criteria that your VA can then filter these people out in the DMs. It's very cool, but in the beginning, I recommend you do it yourself. What to do in the DMs? The first thing you need to have is you need to have a list of must-have criterias. And for us, so these are the criteria that the person unnegotiably must have. For us, these criteria are, do you have time to work full time? Very simple, because sometimes people applied and then they're like, oh, I can only do part-time because I'm in this other offer already. Well, guess what? We're not looking for anything part-time because we're going to be investing our time into you. So we want you to work full-time for us. We're not going to train you full-time for you to only be taking half the calls and the other half for someone else. So do you have time to work full-time? What's your age? Where are you located in? This is important for us because our clients are in certain time zones. So if you're, for example, in Australia, you're going to have to work in European times. So either you're not a good fit for us or you're okay with working, I don't know, in the middle of the night. So this is also a very important criteria for us. What's your experience in closing or setting so far? Please share some numbers, if as much as you can share, in terms of dials per day, calls per day, average closing rate, best month so far in terms of commission, and so on and so forth. And last but not least, please leave a quick voice message. Feel free to answer all the questions above with a quick voice message. After that, I'll be super happy to send you more details about the position. That last sentence is key because sometimes when you just send out these must-have criterias and these questions, some reps are like, I'm not going to answer any of that. I don't even know what the position is. So who the hell are you? This is usually already a bad sign, but nonetheless, I'm always imagining I'm having a potential A player here on the line. I don't just want to be like, answer all these questions and we'll see if you're good enough to receive more information. You know, like I don't want to start it at that foot, but at the same time, I don't want to engage in a conversation only to turn out that person might not have all the must-have criterias. So what I'm saying is, hey, thank you so much for applying for the position. Appreciate that. Couple of quick preliminary questions from my side. What's your age? Where are you located in? What's your experience level? Can you share some numbers to the doc? Can you leave a voice message? And then the last message is, or the bottom sentence in that one message is, I'll be super happy to send you the info right afterwards. Just to show them like, hey, I get it. It's a bunch of questions. I get it. It's silly, and then I'll send you the info. But on the other hand, this must-have criteria are also very important because you right away don't want to waste your time with someone that does not have all the must-have criteria. Because it could be that they're like, even though your job opening said, hey, we're only hiring experienced people, they're like, well, I don't have any experience. I figured I'd give it a shot and on the list, you know? So the must-have criteria, they have to come back positive, because if they don't, you just want to copy paste, thank you for applying, not what we're looking for, and you don't want to waste your time any longer with them. We give our clients a list of must-have criteria. We come up with the must-have criteria together with them. But I mean, as a business owner, you should probably know what exactly you're looking for. Now, assuming that, let's stick to the voice message real quick. We always ask for a voice message because number one, we want to hear their accent, because accent for us is important. I'm assuming for most of you listening, it is important as well. And number two, we want to hear their vibe. You'll be so surprised how many people are like, oh yeah, hey, what's up? I guess, yeah. And then you're like, who, like this, like you think this is a good vibe to have if you're applying for a closing position? Because sometimes on paper they look really good, but then their vibes are super duper whack. So you can already see like the charisma and the social acuity in the voice message already, and you can already kick out a lot of people. Now, guess what? A lot of people also won't even reply to these questions. Good. You just dodged a bunch of bullets, because if they cannot fill out a couple of questions, they probably are not going to have the work ethic which you're looking for as a sales rep. Phew. All right. So you got that. Now that you filled out all the must-have criteria, they came back positive. The voice message sounds good so far. Now what you do is, now kind of like the table turns. So you were just screening them whether they're a good fit. Now you want to show them everything there is to know about the position for them to see if this is even something that they're looking for. Now, a lot of people, a lot of sales teachers, they kind of say, don't show the scorecard, show it later only in the interview. I disagree. I do not want to be on a full interview with someone, God beware, 3 interviews with someone, then tell them, hey, you're a great fit, we'd love to work with you. And then they're like, cool, what's the pay? What's the on-track earnings? What's the working hours? And then they're like, oh, I can't do that. That's not what I'm looking for. And now you've just wasted hours of your time, which is why after someone said that they have the rough must-have criteria, I send them a scorecard. A scorecard, I mentioned it before, is a document with all the info on the position, and then a Loom video where you, ideally the business owner or your head of sales, your manager or your HR person, goes through the document in a video, and you send this out to reps. My scorecard video right now for our company, I think it's 15 minutes long. And it's a very, very detailed document. Again, we give this document to our clients. I just kind of want to give you a rudimentary overview over what this document includes. This document includes, generally speaking, what the position entails. Hey, this is about a closer position, meaning we're looking for you to take leads, turn them into money, so we can then use that money and spend it on more ads so we can scale this company, right? Then what we're talking about is leads. That's kind of like the first main category that you want to have in your scorecard. Where do the leads come from? What's all your funnel? Is it an Instagram DM funnel? Here's the Instagram account with 200,000 followers right now. Is it a VSL YouTube funnel? Is it organic? Is it SEO because people go on the page? Is it whatever it is? Or maybe you have multiple funnels. You want to give them a proper overview over this is where our leads are coming from. You can even link it to them so they can check it out. We've had reps that are like, check out UVSL. It's so good. People who are coming to you, Max, they must be so warm. I'm really hyped about this, right? So give them an exact overview over where your lead's coming from. Also, give them an overview over the lead flow. If you don't know these numbers, maybe you shouldn't hire a closer yet, and you want to get these numbers first. So you want to find out what is the average lead flow per month? What is the average show rate of these leads per month? How many of these leads come in inbound, meaning they fill out an application and land on your calendar? How many of these leads just opt in, and aka we have their phone number and we're just going to call them? Like, again, you want to tell them where the leads are coming from and how many leads are expected. On top of that, you want to have in that scorecard your average show rate, your average qualification rate, and your average closing rate of your existing sales team. If you don't have an existing sales team yet and you're doing this yourself, you should have these numbers as well. Hey, on average, I get 10 inbound leads that are booking on my calendar per week. On average, 86% of them show up. On an average, out of these 86%, 75% are qualified, and out of those, 35% I close. You want to give them these exact numbers. Why? Because A players will appreciate this, or perhaps even look for these exact numbers. And this is key because, again, think about it in terms of the market. There's a lot of A players who've been burned by shitty, bloated, fake offers before, where they're like, yeah, you can make easily 200K a month with us. Yeah, we don't know our lead flow, but trust me, you'll make it. right? But here comes you and you're like, hey, this is our lead flow. This is the show up rate. This is how many people you expect to have on the calendar. Out of this is the closing rate that we know we already have. So if you're good, you're going to have this closing rate or perhaps even higher, which means this is what you expect to be making, right? So an A player will always appreciate the hell out of that. And this is something we hear all the time when we send out our scorecard, that people are like, holy shit, your company is super structured. Like, you know all your numbers. Like, you really seem like you're really well in control. I would love to work for this company, right? So that kind of fits into the culture and team aspect that an A player is looking for, and also into the promise of a bright future of the company, because an A player is just going to count one and one together, and they're like, okay, so if these guys know their numbers perfectly, they're super transparent about all that, their numbers make sense. Their numbers look great. So if I go in there and I just close the hell out of everyone, those guys are going to scale. And then I get even more leads. And this is awesome. Like, I want to be part of this company, right? That is why a scorecard should be in that great of a detail. So what the other thing that you want to add is, of course, the price points that you're selling and rough information about what it is that you're selling. So, hey, our offer is B2C, B2B. Our audience is people that want to do XYZ, businesses that are in XYZ industry. Our price points are price point A, price point B, price point C. The commission that we're paying is this and that much commission. So you have the general information, the lead flow, the on-track earnings is next. The on-track earnings is, these are the earnings that you can expect. Number one, this is what the price points of our company is, like of the things that we're selling. Of that, you would get paid 10% commission on cash collected. And then you take the numbers from the lead flow. That means at a lead flow of this much on average per week per month, with a show up rate of this on average per week per month, if you have the minimum closing rate on average per month per week, you will make this amount of money. You are expected to make this amount of money on track earnings, expected on track earnings per month at the current rate of the company. So what I usually add there is what I recommend to add at this section is, this is at the current rate of the company. We are looking for you to make a lot of closes so you make money and we make more money so we can increase the ad spend. We are actually planning to get to 100K a month, $1 million a month, whatever. Would love to have you a part of this journey, because then you can also make more money. But this is the current numbers, all right? And then on top of that, you want to have anything else that you're looking for. Like, here's the character traits that we're looking for. You need to be hungry, you need to have work ethic, you need to be a team player, and also any other information about the position. Hey, you're expected to be calling Monday through Friday. Or if you have an offer where it's like Monday through Sunday, you're expected to do at least 40 hours a week. And to be frank, you can also be honest here and be like, if you can't do 40 hours a week, this position is not you. It's not for you. That's just how it is. If you can't do calls on a Sunday, Sunday's our best day. This position is not for you. So in there, you want to again emphasize some of the must-have criteria, some of the no-go criteria, what the general position entails. Also, information about training. What does a training look like? A good A player will always ask that. Do you guys do quality control? Do you guys have access to sales mentors? Do you guys have meetings? Do you guys call recordings? Like, all the good things that they will see on a weekly basis, have that in there. We have things in there like with daily sales team meeting at 4 p.m. Central European time. Every rep gets so and so many quality control call reviews. We have access to salespeople that are going to teach you this and this and that. We have internal training for everything. You have daily one-on-ones, weekly one-on-ones. Ramp-up phase is going to look like this. In the first week, you're expected to hit this number, these numbers. In the second week, you're expected to hit these numbers, and so on and so forth. So any information anybody could possibly ask is in that scorecard. Have it in a short bullet point overview type of manner, and then record a Loom video, a Loom video with a little bubble where they can actually see your face as well, or, your sales manager's face. Go through it. Should be around 10, 15, maximum 20 minutes long. And then you send that out in the DMs to everybody that has replied to the job opening and that has replied positively to the must-have criteria. The message that I usually send out here is something like, sounds good so far, John. Thanks for your answers. Haha, you're also from New York. Great. Something like that. Right? Acknowledge what they wrote. Let me send you over our scorecard here. It's a quick 15, 20-minute video. It includes all the important information about workload, lead flow, expected on-track earnings. Please look at it and then let me know if this is something that you're looking for. Usually, If your scorecard is really good, a vast majority is going to come back to you. I think for us, it's like 80% of people that get the scorecard, they're like, this is amazing. Holy shit, tell me more. What's the next step? When do you have time for an interview? Sometimes people are very, very, very eager. But the basic gist is you want to be transparent about the numbers, about the work times, the workflow, the workload, the expected on-track earnings, the lead flow, the warmth of the leads on average, and so on and so forth. You want to be honest and transparent about all these things because you don't want to waste your time with somebody that is not okay with that. And only if they say, this sounds great, that is then when you hop on an interview, on the first one. Again, why all this before you even hop on an interview? Because you're going to talk to a lot of people if you're aiming to hire 0.5 to 1% of people, and you don't want to have hundreds of interviews. So you want to make sure that they have all the must-have criteria, the minimum must-have criteria. You want to make sure that they like your offer, and only if both say, this is great, let's have a closer look, then you want to invite them on the first interview. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time. Now, what we do is we have 3 interviews. Why the hell do we have 3 interviews? Well, interview number 1, we have purely just a mock call. If we hire a closer, it's a mock closing call. If we're looking for a setter, it's a mock setter call. It's basically a role play call. I don't waste my time with anything else. I don't ask them about more information about them because I got the gist of the information ready when they replied to the must-have criteria. I don't check for culture fit whatsoever. I just check, can I do a freaking job? Do they fulfill the requirement of the soft skills part that we've talked about before? So I literally just usually hop on an interview. I'm like, John, good to see you. Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, perfect, good. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate that. Let's just get started right away with a quick mock call if you're fine. They always say yes. And I don't even, most of the time, I don't even tell them, I think, beforehand. Sometimes I do, but the basic gist is if they're like, oh, you want to do a mock call? Well, I wasn't prepared for that. That's already a freaking red flag because like a closer or a setter should be able to do it either way, right? So I just jump in straight into the mock call and then I give them basic information. I'm like, you've seen the scorecard, so you know our price points. Let me just repeat it. Price point is whatever, 5K. And what I want you to do is I want you to jump straight into the pitch. Forget about discovery phase, forget about warm up and all that jazz. I just want to look at your pitch and your ability to objection handle. So pitch me our base level program. It's price pointed at $5,000. It can be split up over multiple payments if necessary. And I just want you to go straight into the pitch. If you're missing facts about the program, don't worry. This is not like an exam where you're about to reiterate facts. Just make stuff up, improvise. This is purely about me looking at how well can you handle my stupid excuses that I'm giving you. And I'm making the joke here specifically like stupid excuses just to put the pressure off a little bit, right? I'm joking around to alleviate the situation. Yeah, is there anything else you need to know about the program? And then sometimes they're like, what's the name of the program? What is your name in the fictitious example? That's fine. Give them that info. And then basically say, okay, whenever you're ready, just go ahead and pitch me. And the other thing that I tell them, I'm like, if you don't know what to do, don't ever stop the role play. Like, don't go out of the role play and be like, sorry, Max, I don't know what to do now. Because you can't do that in a closing call either. You know what I mean? Like, improvise. If you forgot the name of the program, frickin' improvise. If you're not sure what to do, improvise. Because you can't do this in a real situation either, right? So I always tell them that as well. Under no circumstance, interrupt the role play. Just go for it. If you feel like you got to close me, go close me. If you feel like you need to follow up with me, do that if you do it right. I just want to see what you do, all right? And here's another trick, is I tell them price point is 5K, and price can be split up if necessary, because in my head, I already have the objections that I will give the rep in my head already. I have them ready. I give each and every interview the exact same objections. If you're somebody who's going to apply for us, this is going to be very helpful. But also for you as a business owner, it's going to be very, very helpful. So the objections that I'm looking for is they're going to pitch to me. They're going to say something like, okay, Max, price point's 5K. What do you think? Let's do it. You know, the mentoring program is whatever, 10 weeks. Maybe they make it up. Maybe they remember the date, the exact time. Anyways, what do you think? Let's do it. The first objection I'm giving them is, well, I got to think about it. That's the most basic of the base objections. that everybody's going to give. Why or what do I want to hear? Here's what I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear the premature objection handler of like, oh, you got to think about it, but I know it's risky, but you got to do it. It's all about action taking. And Jeff Bezos, I'm sure he doesn't need to think about anything. That's what I call premature objection handling. If you want to see if the person is a good closer, they're going to say the following. Oh, what is it that you need to think about? It's that simple. If you need to look a little bit closer, you as a business owner, maybe you're lacking the objection handling skills yourself. I have an extra sales training on the Max Tornow podcast. I think it's called Sales Masterclass. It's another like 1 hour, 1.5 hour video or so. Go check that out. It will really help you understand what a good closer needs to do. So if you've never closed yourself, this free sales training is entirely for free. It's on the podcast YouTube channel or on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you want to check it out. It's on there, it's entirely for free. You could check that out. It will give you the rudimentary understanding. But anyways, I give him the first objection I really need to think about because it already separates the good closers from the bad closers to a degree. Because bad closers, they're not going to ask questions. They're just overly eager and they try to handle objections right away. The other thing is, with these objections that I have in my head, I'll give you mine just as an example. But if you have specific objections that you get all the time, that your audience gives you all the time, use those instead, okay? Because obviously these objections are objections that your candidate is going to get when they work for you, so might as well already test if they can close those. Because if they can handle the objections in the mock call, the same objections you usually get, they'll probably handle these objections in real life later as well, and they can close right away out of the box, right? So in my example, I'm using objections that we usually get, which is number one, I have to think about it. And I'm talking about our B2C offer here. We have B2C offer where we help beginners, and we have B2B offers where we help people that are already making money scale their company. This is probably usually you because you're listening to this as an advanced program. But I'm talking about the B2C offer side of things. So the first objection I'm giving them is I have to think about it. They need to pass that by saying, what is it that you need to think about? And then I say, it all sounds good, but $5K altogether, all up front, sounds like quite a lot of money. So this is the second objection I've pre-planned in my head. Again here, if they're a bad closer, they're just trying to handle the objection right away, or they just think it's a money objection, a simple money objection. But a good closer hears that I say altogether, all up front, and then screens for whether it is a financial objection, meaning they cannot afford it at all, versus it is a payment plan objection, meaning maybe they can afford it, just not everything up front and they want to split it up, or whether it's an objection where they actually don't like the program or the offer and they just say it's too much money. So a good closer just wants to separate between these 3 points. A good closer would say first, okay, I hear you say $5K altogether up front is too much. Money aside for a second here, what do you think about the program or the steps that I've been talking about so far? Just completely money aside. If they go down that route, that's already very good. Then I usually say, it's decent, I guess. And that's the next objection that I have in my head, because a good closer should hear it's decent, I guess, because that doesn't sound super convinced, and already ask, oh, decent, you guess? What exactly do you mean by that? Maybe they dig even deeper and say, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, price aside, what do you think about the program? Then I would give them an 8 out of 10. Then they would ideally ask, what does it take to go to a 10 out of 10? And so on and so forth. So they handle that objection. I would then tell them program itself is decent. It's good. It's really just the money altogether all up front. If they then go for the payment plan, meaning, oh, altogether all up front, so does that mean you could potentially join if we split it up? And then I would say, yeah, absolutely. I would love to split it up. If they then do the financial advisor properly, again, feel free to check out the sales masterclass I have for free on the Max Tornow podcast channel as well. If they then do the financial screening properly and not just say, well, let's split it up into 6 payments, but they actually figure out what I can afford and then put it into in the most amount of money up front altogether, that's in an ideal scenario, then it's also a pass. And then after they've handled all that, I still have a last objection, because usually they handle that, and then they're like, cool, well, let's get started. Then I'm still saying, I gotta think about it. And then a good closer needs to watch, rinse, repeat, and circle back to then say again, what is it that you need to think about? I've had closers that were crushing it at first, and then I said I got to think about it, and then they're like, well, all good, then let's talk tomorrow, and then just left me off the call, and I'm like, what the hell? Wash, rinse, repeat, go back to objection handling. And then in an ideal scenario, they ask me again, what is it that you need to think about? And then I usually say something like, what's the smoke screen? I'm giving them a really stupid smoke screen here. I say, well, to be honest, right now it's just not a good time. I really like what you're doing. I like the price. I appreciate the payment plan, but how about we touch base in November? Like I just pick like a month that is like 2-3 months later. How about we touch base in November because I think it'll be easier for me. And then a good closer should ask, okay, what do you mean by it will be easier in November? What will be different? Instead of just trying to handle it right away. It's never the right timing, and Elon Musk, he doesn't wait until November either. That's again like premature objection handling. Instead, what you want to have is he or she asks, well, what's different in November, or what do you mean by waiting longer? And then I usually give him some silly excuse of like, well, right now at my job, it's really busy right now. Like I work so many hours. I just don't think I have enough hours during the day. And if you're watching this on video, I'm winking into the camera. I mean, I'm not actually winking in the mock call, but like to make it clear for you in this specific example, like I think that in November, I'll have more hours in the day that I could then invest in this program, in this service, in this agency work together with you. A good closer then asks, okay, so you think you're going to have more time in November than you have right now? Am I hearing you right? That's a little bit of a tie down. Then I say yes. And then a good closer should ideally say, well, let me ask you this. How many hours do you have right now on average per day? And then I would tell them, well, I come back at 6. I could go to bed at 10. I got about an hour of dinner, blah, blah, blah. I have like 2 hours a day, right? And then they say, in an ideal world, if they're a good closer, they say, well, if you have 2 hours a day, that's definitely enough to get started right now. And then in this mock call situation, I act all surprised. Oh, I can do this with an hour or 2 a day? I thought I need 6 hours a day. Well, this is great. So now I'm telling them, I'm physically showing my demeanor. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I didn't know. Okay, well, that is great. My whole physiology changes. And then the last test is that the closer then sees that he or she handled the last objection and then goes for a close. If they do all this, that's a really, really good mock call. That would be a 10 out of 10 mock call. In an ideal scenario, they do either 10 out of 10 or they do 80% right. 75, 80% is usually good. We always call this the hell yeah factor. If you as the business owner or whoever does the interview, you're like, hell yeah, this person is really good. They may not have gotten everything correct, but they got the gist of it. And, maybe 2-3 smaller mistakes, but they're really, really good. If they do that, they move on to interview number 2. But before you discuss interview number 2, you wrap up the mock call. I mean, again, ideally they close you, like by the time they then say, what's your credit card number? And in my head, they handle all my objections. I'm like, okay, good. Let's stop the mock call. But before I talk about it with them, I asked them, how do you think you did? That's another trick. Before you even talk about interview number 2, before you even talk about how they did in the mock call, you ask them how you think you did. It's kind of like a little bit of a chance of redemption, because sometimes I've had candidates that did pretty well, but there was like a bunch of mistakes that they made. But then when I asked them how they did, they talked about all these mistakes. So they're like, I did well, but I didn't do this correctly. And here I should have said that. And here I should have said that. That's still pretty good, because I get it in the heat of the moment. Sometimes they forget things. They have no preparation whatsoever. If at least they have the retrospective thinking of like, I made this and this and this mistake, that is still very good, because it shows they have opportunity to reflect. They have opportunity to fix their own behavior, and they notice their own mistakes, which is great. If they messed up and they're like, oh, I did great, nothing I would have done differently, then that's an issue, right? So I always ask them, how you think you did, and I always give them the opportunity, like, if you had to change anything, what would you change? And if in total they did well, plus the things that didn't do well, they picked up on them, or the things that didn't do well and that didn't pick up on them are not that many. It's roughly 75% good. And you got the hell yeah factor where you feel, hell yeah, this person is pretty good. Then you tell them honestly, okay, honest and open, transparent communication here, as it is company culture with us. That's company culture with us. Here's what I think. I think you did the mock call great. I think you definitely someone that I want to talk more. So I want to suggest a second interview with you. That's a great sign. So I always tell them, hey, you getting the second interview means you're in so far. Because some people are like, second interview? Oh no, did I suck? No, I'm like, hey, like you did well, and that's why I'm going to do another interview with you. Here's what's going to happen in the second interview. And I'm telling them as transparently as I'm telling you right now. In the first interview that we just did, we did a mock call. I'm now going to give you feedback for that mock call. Feel free to write down notes if you want to. If not, that's fine too. And then the second interview, we're going to do another mock call where I'm going to screen you for exactly this feedback that I'm about to give you. The reason why this is important for us, because we're looking for people who can take and implement feedback. You'd be surprised, John or Lisa or whoever is on the call here, you'd be surprised how many people we do give feedback and then they nod and they agree and they understand it and then they make exactly the same mistakes. Again, we don't want to work with these kind of people. So that's why I think your mock call was great. I'm going to give you a couple of feedback points. Feel free to write them down. And then the next interview, I'm going to screen you for exactly that and see if you can implement that. I'll literally tell them up front and honest, because you'll be surprised. Some people understand that. They take the feedback and then they make the exact same mistakes in the second mock call again. We've mentioned this before. You do not want to have these people in your company. That easy, all right? So, and then I give them the feedback points. I'm like, hey, I didn't like how you did the financial advisor. You didn't split up the payments properly. You gave me the 6-month payment plan right away. That's the lowest payment plan. In the next call, I want you to actually ask me for my finances and then pitch me the highest possible payment plan. Here's how this works. First you say this, then you say that, then you say that. Does that make sense? Yeah? Do you need me to repeat it for the notes? You got it written down? Got it. Any questions? No? Perfect. Like, tell them as much as you can. Give them all the sorry, I just hit the microphone. Give them all the details if necessary, because you want to give them everything they could potentially need to succeed in the second call. Because if they don't succeed in the second call, despite all the kickass feedback, then they're really not a good fit. Because you'll be training them probably just as well anyways, right? So I'm giving them full-on transparent feedback. I ask them if there's anything else I can do for them, and then I schedule ideally for the next day right away. Like, you do not want to schedule for like a week later or something like that. Always remember the market, right? An A player probably has dozens of other interviews lined up, and probably someone's going to hire them away from you by the time you have the next interview. So you want to move quickly. If you like a candidate, get them on the first interview, second and third interview very quickly, ideally within 2 to 3 days. The third interview, you can have a couple, you could potentially have right after the second interview or a couple hours later on the same day. Or if that doesn't work, then at the very least the next day. So over 3 days maximum, you should have these 3 interviews. So, second interview comes along. You basically do exactly that. John, good to see you again. Ready for the second mock call. Cool. Same scenario. You're going to pitch me the same thing. I'm going to give you stupid excuses. Go. And then you do exactly the same, and they have to freaking implement the feedback that you've told them. So you meaning if they didn't screen you financially properly, you're going to get them in the exact same situation where they have to apply the feedback about screening for you. Here's what you can do with these interviews. If you have a sales manager or a business partner, that partner can do the second interview instead of you. This is very, very key. If you want to have a second opinion, we do this too. It's like we actually have the first interview with an assistant of mine because it's just a mock call. So we've trained our assistants to play the role of the potential lead. Then we watch the replay of that on double the speed because we get so many applicants. And then only if that replay is good, then they get the second interview with either me or with our head of sales, Nico Berger, that is. So that's kind of like how we do it. And by the way, mock call for a setter is in essence exactly the same. I don't want to go into too much detail here because I've been talking for like 1.5 hours already. Mock call for a setter is in essence the same. You pick a very usual setter call. You give them the pushback that you guys or girls usually get in that situation. You want to see how they handle that, and then you want to give them feedback. And then in the second call, you want to screen them for that feedback. And then the third interview, again, if assuming that they crushed it, they implemented all the feedback, then you can either jump straight into the third interview where you say, got it, you crushed it. So far, I like what you're doing. You can implement feedback. Now let's go into the third interview. And the third interview at this stage is rather just a formality. That is where you want to ask, for example, a little bit more clarification about the background that they already gave you in the must-have criterias. That is where you can check a little bit more their vibes, although usually you know their vibes pretty well already from 2 mock calls. You want to see if they're a good culture fit. You want to ask them a couple of questions about their goals within the company, about their monetary expectations. You want to remind them of the scorecard again, depending on how well they know it. Some reps, the good ones, they remember the scorecard, they remember the price points, they totally know what the on-track earnings are, the expected earnings. They know all that. They might even have clarification questions themselves. So you really want to make sure that they know what they're signing up for. You really want to make sure that they get the opportunity to ask you all the questions that they potentially have about your company. Really take your time to answer everything. And again, like, you can either do this right after the second interview, or you schedule another interview if you or they are short on time. And then this, we've talked so much. I really hope you're enjoying this. I really hope you're getting a lot of value here. I've prepared this so much. I'm just monologuing for 1.5 hours. My girlfriend came home like half an hour ago. She must be like, what the hell is Max doing? Like, who is he talking to? So if you got value so far, give it a thumbs up or a 5-star rating or whatnot. I would appreciate that. Anyways, so assuming all this worked, okay, 3 interviews, must-have criteria, scorecard, yada, yada, all that is good. Now you extend the offer. The way to extend the offer is in the interview already. The way I extend it is usually I go on a little bit of a monologue. I'm like, hey, honest and transparency here, John or Lisa. From my perspective, green light. And I really emphasize that from our perspective, you're going to get green light, which means we would love to have you on the company. But I want to give you 24 hours to think about whether this is also green light from your perspective. Reason why I want to do this is you and I, we've spent 2 or 3 interviews now together. Maybe you are very excited about the company because, I don't know, maybe you think I'm charismatic, maybe because we're vibing well together. What I really want you to do, though, is I want you to think about over the next 24 hours, you know, when the emotions settle, when the adrenaline goes down, if this is still something that you want to do. You got all the numbers. I've been as transparent with you as possible. Look at the scorecard again. Look at all the on-track earnings. They haven't changed. They're still the same. Look at the other offers that you have. And if ours is truly the best offer, we'll be happy to have you on board. If ours is not the best offer, or you don't want to do it for whatever reason, no problem. No harm done. We're not going to be mad at you, right? You didn't waste our time whatsoever. We'll stay friends. We'll stay in touch and all that jazz. But what I don't want you to do is give me half-ass yes now and then half-ass the rest of it, because that's a waste of our time. And quite frankly, it's a waste of your time as well. And I don't want you to waste your time. I want you to be in a company, work on an offer that you believe in, that you love, that you really want to, that you can really see yourself doing for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because we're in it for the long run. So that's why I want you to sleep over it. 24 hours. I mean, sometimes if it's urgent, I give them 12 hours or whatever, but at least they should pass the whole night over that. And I tell them honestly too, I bet you have a lot of offers. Like, unless we're the best offer, go with somebody else, right? I really kind of like want to almost talk them out of it, because the last thing I want to do, I used to do this in the past, is like I tried to convince people, I tried to hype people. No, this is great. You're going to love it. And then they would be like, oh, okay. They would be literally pursued by me. And then, you know, that persuasion only lasts so long. And then 3 weeks, 3 months later, they just quit again. So I want them to really think about it. I want them to weigh us, compared to all the other offers that they're having out there. And I want ours to win, because then I know they're 100% bought in. And I'm giving them an easy way out too. I'm like, hey, if this is not 100% for you, I'm not going to be mad. Just let me know it's not for me. You don't need to explain yourself. We'll stay friends and all that. Like, I make it really easy for them to say no. And maybe 10% of people then actually come back and say no, or they say, hey, there was this other offer. It was a little bit better. Usually the offers that were a little bit better then turn out to be liars and they come back anyways. But I'm cool with them not coming back with a positive yes. I'm cool with that, because I actually think I dodged a bullet. Because If they were only going to half-ass it would have wasted my time, right? I also tell them, hey, if you have any question in between, like, I forgot to ask Max this question, feel free to hit me up on the DMs. I'll reply, just so they have all the clarity. And then I also tell them, so let's agree on a time or you hit me up. So whatever, it's 6 p.m. now. So 6 p.m. tomorrow, I expect your DM. If you message me back at 6:01 p.m., I already take this as a sign that you're not serious. So make sure you're on time. You can message me before 6 p.m. if you want, but 6 p.m. is cut off. Take this serious. Also that's like a last little mini test that I throw in. I've never had it that someone then was late, but I give them that test just in case. That's key. And then, so we do all that, and then I ask them if they have any more questions. And I think that is basically it. Let me have a quick sip of my water. Oh yeah, and then I tell them one more thing. I'm telling them what things look like if they say yes, right? So I'm telling them, hey, if you say no, no problem, If you say yes, it means we're going to hit the ground running. You're going to work your ass off like you've never worked your ass off before. You're going to learn, you're going to grow. We're going to support you. Ramp up phase is going to look like this. In the first week, you're going to learn this. Our internal training looks like this. You're going to have access to the team. We're going to have daily one-on-ones or weekly one-on-ones, and so on and so forth. So I'm explaining them exactly what happens when they say yes. Also there to manage expectations. And that's really it when it comes to the hiring process. And that's also the next point I want to talk about, managing expectations. So you can probably tell by now that the entire hiring process is built upon managing expectations as much as humanly possible. Every single rep that starts with us knows exactly what they're expected, what they can expect to earn in the first month, in the first week, in the first 2 months, in the first 6 months. They know exactly what to expect in terms of leads, where they come from. We tell them what our CRM looks like. Like, we manage as many expectations as possible. We paint as detailed of a picture as possible before they start working with us. That includes, of course, also the ramp up phase and all that jazz. Because again, like, we want to eliminate any potential factors where they then start and we waste our freaking time. And then they're like, oh, it's not as I expected. The leads are not as many as I thought. The money is not as much as I thought. The team is not as I expected it. There's no more excuses for that if you over communicate that and you're super duper transparent and manage your expectations beforehand. Right? If people say no beforehand, hey, I don't want to do this, the team doesn't sound cool enough for me, or the social media, that's cool. Now you've dodged a bullet. At least you didn't waste your time with a bunch of interviews with that person, right? Hope that makes sense. Now, in terms of training and ramp up, once the person starts with us, we try to automate whenever possible, but we give them actual, one-on-one support and in-person meaning over Zoom training as necessary, okay? Automate as much as possible, give them as much personal attention as necessary. Our internal training contains everything. By internal training, I mean an internal portal of videos. It's almost like a video course, but not for our clients, but for the people that come into our company. So when a new setter or a closer starts with us, sure, we introduce them to the team. They could join the meetings and all that jazz. But I would say about the first 5 to 7 days, maybe more like 3 to 7 days, they're just going to watch the internal training. It's literally just, here's the logins, here's your email at maxtornow.com, at freedomsmentoring.com. And here, watch all these videos. And we have everything in these internal trainings. We have, like, here's what the company stands for. Here's how to communicate within the company. Here's what to wear in the Zoom meetings. Here's how to communicate. Here's what we sell. Here's our clients. Here's our social media. Here's our price point. So this is all like the general information that any position would get. How we communicate with each other, what our mission is, what our company culture is like, and so on and so forth. It's all there. And then it gets it's almost like the army, like in the US Army or whatever. Like, at first you get general training, and then you get specialized training. And then the specialized training for setters or closers respectively includes all the procedures, all the tech, all the apps that we're using. So here's our CRM. Here's what everything in the CRM means. Here's your procedure in the morning. Here's a procedure in the evening. Here's how to do this. Here's how to dial. Here's the script. Here's a breakdown of the script. Here's examples of the closing calls if you're a closer. Here's examples of the setter calls. It's just everything that could ever be to know about their work. This is not just for them to learn that beforehand, but it's also for them to then basically always go back. So whenever they're making a mistake in the end of day report, for example, we're like, hey, what's the training on the end of day report again? So we don't have to explain it over and over again. So it also saves our own time. You can see here already we have end of day reports, meaning we're very, very structured. We don't just let our closers close, but we're like, hey, here's an end of day report template that they need to fill out. How many dials did you have today? What was the outcome of these dials? How many people were qualified? How many were unsuited? Out of the unsuited, how many were financially unsuited? How many were personally unsuited? How many were thematically unsuited? And so on and so forth. We give these templates to our clients so they can then adapt them to their own niche. But in essence, we have it very, very structured. We also know exactly how many dials they do based on the auto dialer. We have internal training on the auto dialer. I mean, we have internal training for everything. Back in the days when we used to have an in-person office, we'd have internal training on how the coffee machine works, right? We want to minimize people having to ask another staff member because it's all in the internal training. It's like an encyclopedia of everything they need to know about working in our company. Client avatar is another thing that's like, here's the typical person that comes to us. It's also in there. Everything is in the internal training. Then on top of the internal training, especially in the beginning, I would say the first 2 to 4 weeks, you want to do daily quality controls and daily training with a new staff member. I know this sucks. Maybe you're listening to this like, daily meet? Like, what the hell? Like, I just want them to do their job. I get it. And in an ideal world, you hire someone that is already outside of the box. But I guarantee you, if you take 30 to 60 minutes in the first 2 weeks to quality control, meaning to listen to their recordings and give them feedback, it will make you so much money. Like the leverage of these 30 to 60 minutes daily, the amount that you get paid relative to the 30, 60 minutes is among the highest you could ever have as a business owner or a manager that you could ever have. I know this sucks. I know you're busy. I know you want to do other things. But if you take the 30 to 60 minutes, I still do this, not every day at my stage because I have staff who does that for me. But whenever I have an extra minute, I'm like, let me listen to some calls. I always find great feedback. And because we had, and here's now, we're going full circle now, because we hire such amazing people who have many positive character traits, including being able to take and implement feedback, I would find a small mistake in a quality control while I'm cooking my breakfast steak 30 minutes on my freaking AirPods so I have hands-free. Find a small mistake, I eat my breakfast, then I leave a voice message or maybe even a Loom video to the rep. I'm like, hey, I noticed you often do this. Do that other thing instead. And then the next day, I see them implement that, or perhaps even the same day, and they close because of that. Like, I've had this so many times where I would give quality control feedback to a sales rep, and they get back to me a couple hours later, and they're like, hey, I just closed for freaking $9,000 because I had the exact situation that you showed me earlier, and I did the thing you told me. So congratulations, Max. While you were cooking your breakfast steak and listening in on double the speed on a freaking sales call and gave a quick 2-minute voice message feedback, you just made $9,000. That's pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, even we're making multiple 7 figures a year at this point. Like $9,000 from a quick steak breakfast is pretty good hourly rate, if I may say so. So that's why I say it's pretty decent. I hope that makes sense. And I'm just checking my microphone here. Good. I hope the microphone works. It's like a 2-hour freaking episode so far. I really hope the sound works. So that is what you want to do with the training and beginning. And then as the person ramps up pretty well and they get better and better and better, and you really see like, hey, I have less and less feedback for them. That is where you can then start retracting your quality control and your daily meetings with your daily one-on-one meetings with them to maybe doing quality control once a week. I still recommend you or a manager, sales manager, does quality control frequently. I've seen this so many times, trust me, where I'm like, oh, the sales team is crushing it, and I don't do quality control for like 3 months, and then I do it, and like all the mistakes are back. It's not because people are stupid. It's just because people get in a routine and they have a small oversight, and that then stacks up into bigger oversights and bigger, and next thing you know, closing rate dips, nobody knows why, and then you do quality control and you just find a bunch of issues again. Again, at my stage, I have a manager who does that, which is great. For our clients, we actually do some of the quality control. We don't do all of it, but they have support calls. They have, I think, 2 or 3 sales support calls per week. 3 or 4 actually, 3 sales support calls and 1 setter support call per week, our clients, where they can send their staff. So we do a bulk of the heavy lifting and we do quality control on top of that. So we kind of make sure that this doesn't happen to our clients, and it continuously ensures that the sales team performs at roughly the same level. There's always going to be small dips and fluctuations in closing rate, show rate, but that's normal. But the average always stays the same. It actually even goes up because people just get better from all the training. We call this basically the holy trifecta of having a really good sales team. Now, this is about building a team of sales A players, so I'm not going to go too much into detail, but the holy trifecta is quality control, training, and meetings. We have daily group meetings with the entire setter and closer staff. These are daily 1-hour meetings where we talk about projections, we share about wins. Those meetings are the best in the entire company because they're all like awesome alpha dudes and alpha girls, because they're all sales guys, right? Or girls. They're like all charismatic and fun. So it's like a locker room. It's like an hour meeting every day at 4 p.m. Central European time. We talk about wins. We go through projections of the week and of the month, holding everybody accountable. We do training there. We do call reviews. That's really, really awesome. On top of that, we do quality control with replays. And on top of that, we do training with one-on-one with our staff as well. That's like the holy trifecta. I'm not going to go too much into detail. Hey, if you want to, just comment down below or whatever, or DM me and be like, Max, do another 2-hour freaking solo training on how to manage and train a sales team ongoing. But this is more about like hiring. And I got like 2 more points before I wrap things up. And that is point number 1, the rule of 2, meaning always hire double the people that you need. So if you need to hire 1 closer, hire 2. Why? Because there's always a relatively high chance, it's about 50% chance, that the closer doesn't perform, or the closer wants to quit, or you need to fire the closer for whatever reason. There's about 50% chance, meaning if you hire only 1 person because you need one, and then after 2, 3, 4 weeks, turns out that that person is not as good of a fit as you thought, now you're back at ground zero. If you hire 2, though, and on average, 1 of them quits, the other one stays, on average, just mathematically speaking. So now you got exactly that position filled. But Max, hold on a second. What if both are good? I just don't have enough leads. Well, guess what? If both are really good, you're probably going to make more money, and you can spend that money the next month to ramp up more leads, meaning to post more, when you're getting organic, to do more outreach, whether you're getting through outreach, or to ramp up your budget. Either way, maybe those 2 closers are a little bit short on leads for the first 1, 2, maximum 3 months. But if they're really both good, just ramp up the lead flow. And guess what? If both are good, but one is better, then you can always fire the other person. It sounds a little bit like, oh God, just fire them. They did nothing wrong just because the other one is better. Yeah, it's a meritocracy, all right? Or, I mean, look, if you really want to, you can help them find another position. If you don't want to be that much of a baddie to just fire them, like, hey, the other one is better, but I'll help you find another position. I'll give you a good review or whatever. You still do that. So that's the rule of 2. And last but not least, always be hiring. I've mentioned this before. Even when you got all your positions covered, the ideal scenario is that for every position in your company, not just setters and closers, you have at least 3 to 5 people on the bench that you're in contact with, that you've interviewed, that can just jump in right away when one of your main people gets sick or quits or doesn't perform anymore. What you want to avoid with this always be hiring is, number 1, that you're in scarcity, that you're like, oh, this person really underperforms, but I don't have anybody else and I don't have time to interview other people. Fuck, what do I do? So you want to have 3, 4, 5 people on the bench. So if you're like, hey, this person doesn't perform, don't matter. I got 3 other people. I got 5 other people waiting there. 2 of them might not have availability right now because they're working in other companies, but 2 of them are free. Cool, I'll pick 1, interview them again, show them again the scorecard, boom, come in. As quick as that. It's like, again, like on the bench, like in a basketball game or in a football game. That's what you want to have. And the other reason why you want to have these people on the waiting list is because it takes time to hire the right person. So if you need a closer right now, it probably will take you 1, 2, 3, 4 months till you find a good closer. So if you don't have candidates waiting on the bench, you're losing a lot of money where you don't have a closer closing for you or a subpar closer. So the opportunity cost is just so damn high. So I really, really want to put this to your heart. And I know not everybody's going to do it because everybody's like, nah, I don't want to hire people. I'll just hire when I need someone. If you really can, you have the capacity, have 2, maybe 3 interviews per week, even if it's just small interviews. You can delegate as much as you can to an assistant. I have first interviews done by an assistant. I have the DMing done by an assistant. We're constantly hiring. Always. Because I don't want to find myself in a situation where I need to have a position covered, but I don't have anybody to be in there. It's very, very key. Folks, thank you so much for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. If you need help with building a sales team, with hiring, but also with managing and training a sales team, get in touch with us. We've been doing this over the last couple of years very successfully for our own company. We've built up our own killer A-player sales team. I guarantee you we know a lot about what kind of people to hire, what the red flags are, and so on and so forth. If you need help with that, maxtornow.com/call. Book a call there with me and my team. One of my people is going to patch in, maybe even me directly. We're going to look at your sales team. We're going to look at your offer. We're going to look at your plans of a sales team if you don't have a sales team yet. And you want to get started with a sales team, you want to make your first hire, or you want to get your current existing sales team on point, want to make more money, maxtornow.com/call is going to be the URL for you to hop on a call. With us, it's entirely for free. We're not going to be like hardcore selling you or anything like that. We actually are going to see if we can help you. We will tell you what things you need to implement in order to make more money, to get your first hires, to get your existing team on a good point. And then you can either do this without us or you do it with us. We can talk about how exactly we do that. Like I said, we've been doing it not only for us very successfully with making multiple 7 figures every single year with our kickass sales team. We're in fact right now in the process of scaling to 8 figures a year. And we've been doing it for many, many, many of our very advanced clients as well. These are people that are making 30K a month, 50K a month, 200K a month and upwards. So like I said, maxtornow.com/call. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, for listening. I appreciate the hell out of you and I hope you got value from it. That being said, talk soon. Bye-bye.